You guys need a chair? You guys need a chair in the back? Yeah, hey, one more. All right, guys, let's get. Can you hear me all right? Okay. Not great. Too close? Okay. Is that better? Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming tonight. This is the Sugar House Community Council meeting. I'm Landon. As always, we appreciate your participation and attendance. Remember to be polite to all the presenters, as usual. Just a couple of announcements. So we're not going to hold a meeting in July, so the agenda is packed tonight. So I am going to apologize now if we go over. So sorry. The come and go appeal is slated for June 15th. There is not a public process to it, correct, Judy? Okay. But we will send the link out so you guys can see it if anybody wants to watch it. But it's coming. Information pertaining to District 7 City Council. So Councilwoman Fowler's resignation date is effective July 3rd. The application period is from June 26th through July 10th at 4 p.m. Interviews and possible council vote on Thursday, July 13th at 1. And then a couple notes. Once the council selects a new council member, they will be sworn into office immediately. State code deadline to fill vacancy in case more time is needed is August 2nd. And we have some information that we can send out for whoever's interested in running. So that's like 2 houses that way is District 7. We're going to get right to the fire department in case they have to leave. Yeah, come on.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. It's nice to see y'all. I'm Bruce Healy from Fire Station 3 down on 900 East. We have a short, little brief message for you. As everybody knows, we had a super moist winter and a ton of moisture, through the spring and continuing into this monsoon pattern that we've been in. But suffice to say, we have a ton of fuel out there and it's going to start getting hot. Fuels are going to start drying out, and then we're going to start seeing a lot more of those grass fires that we are accustomed to seeing this time of the year. For folks who live along, say, the waterways and or along any natural areas where you interface in with sort of the wild land part of the city, we do have some resources available to you folks, through the fire department that make recommendations as far as clearing timber and kind of making your property more fire resistant in the event that we do have one of these fires. The information is available on our website, SHCFire.com. There's a quick link there, and you can put in a request. We'll send out maybe our crew. It could be some specialists from one of the other city departments, but they'll take a look at your property, and if you have any concerns, make recommendations for you folks. So I encourage y'all to take a look at that. Landon just reminded me that we're not meeting in July, and we will actually have Independence Day. So the fireworks restrictions as of now, we're assuming that they'll mirror 2022 fireworks restrictions, which was pretty much 9th East all the way up to the perimeter of the city, and then South Temple. So there was a very small area where they allow the discharge of fireworks, and it's all mainly down in the kind of the ballpark region, central core of the city. Again, the whole idea is that we don't ignite all of those fuels that are surrounding us here on the foothills. That creates one heck of a mess. Map is also on the SLCfire.com, and we will be out posting signs all throughout the city. It should be very clear about what areas are restricted, where you can discharge fireworks. Of course, the illegal fireworks that people obtain from out of state are always banned. So there's really no question about those. But if ever you do have questions, the website's a great source. You can reach out to us, at the fire station, or stop on by. We're always happy to, see you folks, answer any questions you may have. That's all we have tonight, unless you have any questions for the fire department.
I'd like to recommend that the line be changed to 70.
To 700 east.
I live just, 862 there.
Yes.
And the fireworks are crazy in my neighborhood.
Ah.
Drives me nuts.
Yeah. It's certainly something you could send to your council person once they are determined, I guess, who it's going to be. From the folks of us like myself who've been doing this for a long time, I mean, these are some significant restrictions. And, I think that we all know, having gone through the last couple of seasons, why they're in place. Fireworks could be a lot of fun for, people too. We don't certainly want to spoil all the fun, but yeah, we think that what is in place is appropriate, and they may expand it. We'll just kind of see, as the holidays approach, it'll be very clear about where, that line's drawn. Question?
There was an NPR program on radio this week, and it was about this gentleman, I can't remember because I was reading, so I was trying to pay attention, wrote about how fires in this global climate changing world will actually start burning hotter and go faster and do more damage and be harder to control. Is that, I'm not talking about like hopefully in the city, but in those areas where you're backing on, is that something the fire department is actually?
That is very much, part of our world. Through a combination of the, multi-year drought. Again, we had a great big winter. We just need a couple more of those to get us out of that drought. But the, the accumulation of that drought over decades, so to speak, has really built up in a lot of fuels. There are all sorts of different factors that influence besides, the temperatures, the weather patterns and that sort of thing. A lot of the programs that were put in place with really good intentions about, preserving green space and that sort of thing. Some of that created some issues with building up fuels that are, accumulated to the point where if they do ignite, there's no putting them out. They just have to burn through. California, I think, is a real good example. Canada, yeah. Unfortunately, here in Salt Lake City, we're not facing those kind of issues, but we do have our own risk. Our department has a lot of resources. We've really pushed hard over the last, decade and a half to, expand our program, our capabilities, get new equipment and training such that we can, mitigate those. But there will always be, lightning strikes. Occasionally we'll have fires that are caused by the electrical grids. Transformer blows and it ignites a field, and next thing you know, you've got, homes adjacent threatened. So those are the kind of things we're always going to deal with. But by all means, we can echo that sentiment. Question?
Maybe we want to talk about this later down the road, but as Salt Lake City and Sugar House were being pushed to the up and more multi-family housing, are you changing how you respond to fires or how you want people to act when there is a big fire, or looking at what bigger cities do when they have fires?
The short answer is yes. We are always looking at how we do business, how we can do it more efficient, how we can be more effective, how we can get the most bang for your tax dollars from what we're doing. As far as the high density goes, that brings more congestion. That delays our responses. As everybody knows, there's a lot of traffic, and the streets of Sugar House are still the same size. So it's something that actually slows us down. But we always have, based on the dispatch information, we have multiple units coming from different directions. Our people are really well trained. We are an aggressive fire department, but we're not reckless. And we are constantly, reevaluating how we do these things. I think, just on the incidents that y'all have experienced, within the last year, 2 years, I think we have a real good track record we can be proud of.
Yeah, I'm not being critical, I'm just saying the city is evolving into higher
It sure is. You know?
structures and more crowded streets.
Yeah. And we're looking at, the addition of, maybe a ladder truck for the Sugar House area to get access to those high rises. Our administration is talking with the city political leadership, and we certainly would like to see that in place. Station 3, when it was built back a few years ago, was built with the growth that has been occurring in mind. So it's designed to expand for both apparatus and personnel, and we try to stay ahead of it always.
What is the height with a hook and ladder? What is the highest you can actually get to people without them jumping out of the window?
Right. So jumping out of the windows, a very bad idea. Do not encourage jumping out of windows. Yeah. So our ladders are typically 100-foot aerial ladders, but with the setback, that gives us probably about 75 to 80 feet of reach, to the highest windows up there. The good news is that the high-rise buildings are built to such a high fire protection code as far as their fire protected stairwells. They have all sorts of safety systems in place, smoke curtains, smoke evacuation systems, automatic fire closing doors, hopefully good activating alarm systems, sprinkler systems, all those sorts of things that allow people to escape safely, allow us to get in and take care of the fire. And in many cases, those sprinkler systems will hold that fire, to a very small area of origin before, we get there and extinguish it completely. So, that's the good news with those big high rises, is that they have a lot of protection built into them for that, very thing. Any more? Thank you again so much. You have a great summer. We'll see you.
All right, next we're going to hear from Detective Dallas.
Alrighty. I'll move this up a little bit larger of a person. All right, well, I'm Detective Sam Fallows. I'm the community liaison detective for Districts 5, 6, and 7, but for the Sugar House area. Some of you have worked with me before and or maybe emailed me. So my job is kind of to come and report on the crime statistics for the area, and then just kind of help with any other issues that y'all might be having in your neighborhood. So we'll start with the crime statistics. Every month I pull these, so these are, but it's all for the previous months. We can pull like accurate statistics. So for the month of May, Sugar House saw 287 Part 1 and Part 2 crimes. So Part 1, Part 2 crimes are anything from aggravated assault to homicides to, not that we had any of those here, but to like sex offenses, stolen property, and vandalism. So kind of a wide array of different crime types. So there's 287 of those reported. The biggest ones we saw that had the most, larceny and theft is usually at the top of the list. There was 82 of those reported in the month. So we tend to see, unfortunately, a lot of that. Burglary, which is also a property-related type crime. There was 21 of those, with 18 vandalisms, 15 frauds, and 15 drug abuse cases. So those are kind of the top ones that stuck out in the month of May. So on that, when it comes to property crimes and how we can kind of try and help mitigate being victims, sometimes you'll do everything right and it won't matter. They'll still break into your house or break into your car. But there are a few small things we can do to help. The main one being just take anything of value out of your vehicle at night, especially if you park it on the street. Or in your driveway, if you have to do that, if you don't have a garage option, or if your garage is your storage, something like that. Just try and take everything out of it that's of value. And then on that, we've recently had, I think it's starting to go down, but in the wintertime, we had a lot of people leaving fobs in the vehicles, and the vehicles were getting stolen because of that, like an extra fob. So just anything of value, take it out of the vehicle at night. For our homes, make sure we're turning on our lights. I recently went through a crime prevention through environmental design, like it's called SEPTED. I recently went through that training, and they said the number one way to help prevent crime, like property crimes, is lighting. So if your house is lit up and your neighbor's house is not lit up, they're most likely going to go to the place where there's no light, right? To try and do the things that they want to do. So lighting can be helpful. And then, again, just locking our doors at night, making sure anything of value in our yards, things like that, is just put away. It's the best way to help try and mitigate those problems. And again, sometimes we do everything perfect, we do everything right, and something still happens. So it's just unfortunate, but it does happen. On that note, though, if you'll report it to us, to the Salt Lake City Police Department, a lot of times we think, I just had like my bike got stolen, they're never going to find it. Who cares? So number one, we have a bicycle registration. So if you do that, that'll help us. But number two, if I can get the crime statistics as the liaison detective for the area, I can kind of help guide resources. We have a whole huge group of people that get together every month, and we look at all the different hot spots, and we start throwing those out to patrol and having sergeants direct their officers to go and be in those areas. So like recently, Sugar House had some vehicle burglary hotspots where vehicles were getting broken into a lot. So then we started throwing a lot of patrol resources, especially on Graves when they have a little bit more time to do some extra patrols in those areas. And this month we cleared out everything from Liberty Division, which includes Sugar House. So
Were arrests made?
yeah, yes. And so what we do is we usually arrest like one of the major players, and that'll usually tap it down for a while until they get out of jail, and then it starts again. This is why I have a job, by the way. It's job security. But so that's all. The statistics help us though, because it'll drive all the resources. So if it's something where you have no suspect information, it's just you woke up and you're like, oh my gosh, something's gone from my porch or whatever, you can just get online real quick to slcpd.com, do a quick online report, and it'll become a statistic for your neighborhood so that we can see it, and then that way we get a more accurate picture of what's going on. And then you don't have to wait around for an officer to call you or to show up, and get that done for you. And then another thing too on that is if you're seeing something suspicious, please call. So we can't always respond to calls like super fast, but at a minimum, like no matter what, at a minimum, if you call in like a suspicious person or a suspicious vehicle, it will get an officer driving through your neighborhood. It'll act like an extra patrol, like at an absolute minimum, gets police in the neighborhood. And obviously we have a lot of neighborhoods in Salt Lake City. There's a lot of neighborhoods just within a mile radius of here, right? And so we can't be everywhere at once, but if you see something and you call us, we can go respond to that call. And even if it's gone by the time we get here and nothing really happened, that's fine, but it'll get an officer through the area, driving in the neighborhood. It'll act as an extra patrol for the area. So that's helpful too. And then a couple other things I wanted to highlight. I know recently I've started getting a few more emails, and Landon's gotten a couple of emails on some homelessness issues in the area, which you don't necessarily always see in Sugar House, especially like people maybe sleeping on sidewalks, things like that. So if you're experiencing those things, if it's something that you think requires an immediate police response, then please call our non-emergency dispatch or 911 if it's an emergency, and have an officer come out and check it out. Like if it's maybe someone sleeping on the sidewalk and they're blocking the sidewalk, or they're in the middle of the road, or something like that, call that. But if it's just like a camp that's being set up, I know we've had a couple reports up on like 20th East and the goalie in that area, just things like that where it's like getting set up, but it doesn't necessarily require an immediate police response, or you see that there's a few tents already set up. There's not a lot that our patrol division is going to be able to do with that right away. We just don't have like the manpower or the time to sit there and like make them clean up. But what we do have is city teams that can help with those things, and something that I do as well. So we can help coordinate those with some of our overtime officers that do like camp mitigation and things like that. But again, we have to know about it. So the best way to report that is through the SLC mobile app. That app is a little finicky and it's a little frustrating for those that might have used it a lot. But I want to give a caveat. When you use the app and it says closed, okay, that does not mean that they have been removed and it's done. It means that the submission you put in has been submitted to the correct city division, and they are now handling it. So it's a super confusing thing. It's annoying. I've asked them if we can change it, and apparently we can't right now. So, but it is confusing, sir.
Officer, could you please just explain how these homeless camps, I'm curious because there is one over on 20th East by the country club.
Yeah.
Are those allowed to exist, or how does that
No.
work?
They're not. I mean, it's not like I mean, yeah, they're people, so they do exist, and they are, but we don't allow camping in the city. There's a city ordinance that does not allow camping. It's just manpower, right? That's the biggest issue is manpower. So, for instance, recently we started our homeless resource center squad, or they're going to come online very, very soon. I think within the next few weeks now at this point. Michelle's over there like, yes. And that's been in the works for some time now. And that's going to be awesome because that's going to free up some patrol resources around the homeless resource center squads, which are the homeless resource centers, which are obviously not anywhere near here, but further down. But that'll free up resources to deal with other issues. So it's just a manpower issue, really, is what it is. Camping is not allowed in the city. You can't set up tents. You're certainly welcome to like be in parks and things like that, but again, you can't set up a whole camp and all these things that should not be happening. So what happens is like if you use the SLC mobile app, every Thursday I have a meeting in the morning where we kind of prioritize different locations based on like if it's close to a school or if it's close to businesses that might be experiencing like an exorbitant amount of issues with homelessness. And we just kind of go through this list and get it, and we contact our city teams to either go out there and get the resources or to remove them. So for these kinds of issues like what you're talking about where the camps are setting up, the best thing you can do is kind of take a picture and submit it on that app. And like I said, you might get a thing that says this has been closed, and then you're like, why is it still here? But that's why, is because it's gone to the correct city department. And I've got it now, and I'm going to look at it with the city. So that's the best way to get it to the city to let us know what's going on throughout on the east side here for sure. Anywhere really, but like here for sure. Yes, ma'am.
So I just learned this last night. I like to go on top of what was Westminster on the Drive, across Sunset. I guess the University of Utah is running that now. I have no idea. So I've had the security guard for a long time there, and I guess it's University of Utah Police.
We're talking about the draw.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
And he's told me there's an office there for everybody who wanders around that area. It's open 24 hours a day. That you can actually go there. You might have to knock on the door. But anyway, I was glad to know that there was that security, and apparently they have someone there 24 hours now because there's a lot of drug trafficking in that area. At least that's what he told me. So I don't know where
So the draw specifically is the UU, although SLCPD will still respond there. But anything outside, like literally outside of that, is just Salt Lake City's area to deal with. So, and it's a good point. The tunnel, we all know the tunnel. Right?
yeah.
It's a unique issue. I have a camera. I hope it's still up there. The camera that we put up about a week ago now. I hope it's still up there. Does anybody go through the tunnel often here? Is it still up there? There's not a police camera at the other side on the Sugar House side.
I know.
Sugar House tunnel. On the Sugar House side, there should be a police camera, hopefully. If not, they had to probably put it somewhere else. But I get it up there from time to time. I have them take it back because we have to utilize them all over the city. So they'll put it in one spot and then switch it. But I had one up there recently. It seems to kind of help somewhat because it's got like flashing red and blue lights and things like that. But again, the best way is you can contact me directly on that one because that's a priority for us, the tunnel, because it's just such a constant issue that we have to deal with. And it's not an easy one. Like there's one time we literally cleaned up the tunnel, cleaned everything, and within 20 minutes there was 15 tents back in the tunnel. Like literally, I'm not even exaggerating. It's just it's a frustrating issue for everyone. So, but just know we are trying to figure out like unique ways to deal with it rather than just keep removing people. But all those things are kind of in the work and take time and money and all that good fun stuff. It's way above my pay grade, unfortunately, because I just like throw money at everything if I could. Yeah, go ahead.
Two things. One is there are a lot of other neighborhoods, and they may not be part of the Sugar House, that have what I call, and some of them are fancy, street lights. Not just the ones that, like I'm on Westminster, I'm on the corner of Westminster and 900.
Okay.
But our street is pretty dark. I've done my bit to put all kinds of light sensitive lighting that everybody appreciates. But as you walk down, either the street lights aren't working or there are not. Is there a way to actually get more street lights that then people decorate?
That's a good question.
You know, and
Started on Westminster, but we're 15, 16 piece. We had to pay. We raised money on our block.
And who then you ask that people
I'll have to ask my neighbor.
No.
But that's how we did it. And they're like, I paid for our power.
Perfect.
It runs back to my.
And I've got solar panels, so mine will be free. So another question.
Sure.
The dog on the collar was loose. I and about 4 to 5 of us, because we came and went, I was with the dog the whole time, would not come near us. Uncollared, we had no idea. I'm on Westminster and 900. We were trying to keep it on Westminster, and instead it started to go to 900. I called animal control.
Mhm.
I called the non-emergency police.
Mhm.
We'll get there whenever we get there, it's, it might be an hour or two. It's like, this dog could have caused a major accident of
Sure.
people trying to avert it.
Yeah.
No one cared. The police didn't care. The animal control didn't care. We finally found the owner who came out and said he was sleeping and after he worked out. And he left the dog uncontained. And it was unbelievably frustrating that about 5 of us spent an hour. I was in the street trying to slow traffic down, pace that dog, went on 900, which is now a major thoroughfare, thank you very much, with more construction.
Yeah.
What is one supposed to do with that? Let the dog
That's-
get killed and people have an accident?
It's a good question. I mean, we don't want that to happen, obviously. I mean, if you call animal control and you call patrol, our patrol division won't usually go on those calls because it's an animal control.
Even if it has a potential to cause a major accident if people try to run over it and crash into each other?
Yeah, kind of to some degree. I mean, if the dog was actively in the road, then we might come out on like a road hazard type thing. But
So we should have let it go.
yeah,
All right,
there's no perfect answer. Unfortunately, but
I'm just saying, it's very frustrating that nobody.
I understand. No, I think people care. I just think we couldn't get to it. So, but that is frustrating, and I understand that. I don't have a great answer for you. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's frustrating. My contact info is in the newsletter. So if y'all have any questions for me, need help with trespass affidavits or anything like that, reach out to me, SLC mobile app. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. So thank you guys.
Thanks. This is Brandon from the chamber.
Hello, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Brandon Hill from the Sugar House Chamber. I'm co-chair. The other co-chair, Erica Wiggins, is traveling right now, so it's just me tonight. I'm here to present the Spotlight on Businesses. Tonight, we actually have 2 businesses to spotlight. Before I get to those, I want to make a couple announcements for the folks here representing the chamber. Chamber meetings are going to start becoming a part of the monthly community council meetings to try and reduce some of the redundancy that we've got with some of the meetings going on. So you'll have me or Erica up here for 5 to 10 minutes. The chamber board is holding weekly working session hours from 4:30 to 6 on Thursdays. So if you do have pressing issues that you want to address with us regarding the business community, just reach out to us and we can get that scheduled for you to come and chat with us. And then we will be doing quarterly chamber specific meetings separate from this moving forward. So now that I've got that housekeeping out of the way, come to Sugar House Rocks next week. Do you actually want to maybe just come up and talk about?
I did last month.
Oh,
It's all yours.
Derek has been super awesome in helping us put together kind of a vendors area. So we hope that you come down, listen to the music, support some of the businesses down there, and take a look at some pretty cool vendor stuff. I wasn't able to walk around a ton last time because I was in the chamber booth, but what I did see looked really cool. So with that, I'm going to introduce our first spotlight on business. Omar with the Hive Coffee Bar. Come on up.
Well, my name is Omar Dominguez. Now I'm running the Hive Express. We took over the coffee shop here in the neighborhood of Hive a month ago, right? So this is the second month. We're doing a little bit of changes. We're adding a little bit of food. We add burritos is one of the things we add. We have tamales on weekends. We have some traditional Venezuelan food too. We have something called tequeños, which is like a cheese finger, deep fried. It's not deep fried, it's air fried. And well, what we're trying to do is have some options or more options for the community. You know, being as just a coffee shop is great, but if we can add something else, it's been working very well for everybody. We are like trying to promote some of the vendors here. So we're using the cheese from this company here called Queso Zuliano. And we found a way, working with Artigiano too, we're working with the bean hall to see how we can promote each other and help each other in this process of growing. We are really grateful for being part of this community. I manage like 7 different restaurants in Sugar House for a long time. So I'm really familiar with the community, at least in that part. And now I'm very happy to be part of this other community in Sugar House. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Ray Clapper from Sugar House Craft and Create. There she is. I was looking for you and I'm like, I don't think she left, but.
It's like church, we always sat in the back. I moved here recently because, sorry. I just recently moved here for my kids and grandkids. We have almost 11 grandkids. So being here in Utah and being close to them was important to us. And when we started to pack, I scrapbook and had a huge group in California. Yes, I'm from California. But when we went to move, my husband said, we don't have enough room in our house here. You're going to have to do something. And so I went on the KSL and I found a wonderful spot at the Rockwood Studios. And I have met the most incredible people, including Lori here, who encouraged me, has been like, I think, one of my biggest in-house fans, always promoting me, and recently got in touch with me and had me do a quick project for her. So it made me feel good. I asked my husband recently, why didn't we buy a house here in Sugar House? Because the people here are so much more like family, and just the atmosphere and the quaintness and the businesses, and everybody seems concerned about uniting everyone here in Sugar House. With that said, I do have a small 885 square foot space. And I think what I bring to this space is not just the crafts, the scrapbooking, card making, painting, junk journal, just sitting there and zoning out if you want to. But I think we all get so busy with our lives. We're getting older. And I think a lot of people forget that you can be creative no matter what you do. If you want to bring a rock and paint, you can do that. I made it affordable, $10 for 4 hours for about a 3-foot space. And you can meet other people, other walks of life. In my group in California, it was mainly women. And I learned so much from them because I started scrapbooking with them when I was in my 30s. So sometimes when you sit and you're quiet and you learn from other people, you find yourself growing and you make yourself more comfortable. But again, my space is just to be creative and bring people together. I do offer private events. So if you have a creative idea that you want to invite your friends to, I'm more than welcome to open it up to you. I'm on the newsletter. So if you go to that, it has all my information. I'll be in the back and I have flyers, and I will also, I just found out, have a booth with my daughter. She has a small little business as well. So we're going to share a booth next Friday. So if you want to come see me and you have any questions, I'll be there the whole time. So thank you, and I appreciate it.
Okay. Whoa. All right, next we're going to hear from Shane Stroud and Will Cooker.
Hi, I'm Shane, Secretary. Just a few things tonight, a few orders of business. First, if anyone had a chance to review the minutes like Rich, I would entertain a motion from somebody like Rich as to approval of the minutes. So does anyone have a motion? Oh, Rich, thank you. Second, all in favor of approval of the minutes? Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, second order of business. We met together as the executive committee last week, and we discussed the fact that the library has always been so supportive of the Sugar House Community Council and of our community in general. And lately, the folks that work at the library have been pushing for a recognition of the right to organize and join a labor union if they would like to do so. they would need to have a resolution from the library board, which would then be presented to the city, at which point they could think about unionizing, or they would have the right to unionize. So we thought it was a great idea if we brought it to the trustees and asked for a resolution supporting library workers' right to ask for this ability to unionize. So if anyone would like to make a motion as to such resolution, like Judy
I second it.
and second, all in favor of that resolution supporting the right to unionize? Any opposed? All right, and Will has a presentation about an update on the Joe Hill bench at Sugar House Park, after which I'll ask for a motion connected with that, but I'll let Will present on that first.
Thank you. So we've got some new faces. I'll kind of recap who Joe Hill is a little bit, why he's important to our community. Joe Hill is an international labor icon. He is widely considered to be the martyr of the labor movement here in the U.S. And he was actually imprisoned at Sugar House Park and executed there. Most historians would agree, by no means, in any kind of modern legal standard would he have been convicted. There are a lot of historians doubt that he was guilty of the crimes he was accused. Keep in mind, this was a time and period where labor leaders were regularly imprisoned, disappeared, and or just killed. An ugly part of our American history with the labor movement. But Joe Hill was kind of the poet laureate of the labor movement. He wrote songs. Kind of the IWW Red Book, which contains most of like the labor songs that you still hear today, were written by Joe Hill. His music's influenced, Woody Guthrie, Utah Phillips, up to, more current artists, Bruce Springsteen, Rage Against the Machine. He really is an important figure and a piece of our neighborhood history that's kind of just been missing. So there's a group that's been working for 2 years to get a historical marker in Sugar House Park. And after that 2-year period, it's finally been approved. So we're excited for that. The marker is going to be on the north side of the park. For those that use the park regularly, there's a drinking fountain station right there. What will happen is an additional concrete pad will be poured there. A 6 foot by 6 foot stone wall that kind of mimics the look and feel of the existing stone wall commemorating the prison will be put on that site along with benches. So people can reflect on, the history of Joe Hill, which will be on one side, and some song lyrics, which are on the other, that'll hopefully inspire people in our community. So the council had talked about, contributing to this project, maybe doing a park bench, maybe doing a donation. We'd be looking for, $1,000 donation was what we thought would be appropriate. And we would then in turn apply for an arts grant so that we're not, depleting our funds. But this project is going to be starting soon, so we wanted the leeway to be able to contribute immediately if need be. So, Shane, you want to?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
So I don't know who paid for the concert on 100-year anniversary. Judy Collins came and sang in the park. Were you guys there?
I was not.
It was amazing. I mean, it was a free concert. It was not that many people came, but Judy Collins commemorating Judy Hill. So maybe we can find out who paid for that and do it again.
Yeah, I think there will be a large event around this. I would imagine that we'll.
Rolling Stones, no?
I mean, we'll shoot big. We'll see if we go.
Is there enough money, say, in the treasury to do this, or do we need like a motion from one of our esteemed members here?
There is enough money. I'm not sure exactly how much we have in the bank account right now, but we have enough to cover the $1,000 donation to the bench. And we do need a motion, which is what I was going to ask for. So, okay, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
And all in favor of the $1,000 donation to the bench? Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Derek, we're gonna do trees.
Trees.
Yeah.
Trees.
Yeah, you guys want to introduce yourselves?
My name is Nate Orbach. This is Tony Galai. We're from Salt Lake City Urban Forestry. And we want to just give you a brief update on the city's urban forest, specifically in Sugar House. So first, benefits of trees, you know, they have a lot of social, economic, environmental, communal benefits, air quality, shade is great, lowering urban heat island, you know, we can list off tons of benefits, increased property values, beauty. So that's why we care about trees, but let's move on and talk about the city's urban forest as a whole. As you can see, there's about 90,000 trees that our team cares for. That makes up 68,000 on the streets and another 22,000 in the parks and golf courses. Localizing a little more, Sugar House neighborhood is almost half the city, it feels like geographically, so it makes up a large portion of the urban forest, 15,000 public trees, 12,000 on the street, 2,000 in parks. And the main thing we're here to talk about is what urban forestry does. So we do all the services related to the city's trees, that planting, pruning, removal, stump grinding, emergencies, service requests, as well as permitting for development and general tree work done outside of us as well. You can see on the right side there the numbers of everything we did in Sugar House last year. I won't read every single one, but if anyone wants something addressed, let me know. But yeah, planting new trees. We do all our pruning on requests. So anytime someone calls in and says they need a tree pruned, we'll evaluate it and usually we'll prune it. Removing trees that are dead or dying, as well as grinding out those stumps afterwards. And then emergency response is tree dropped a limb, tree has a broken limb in it, we'll get a crew out and get it cleaned up ASAP. That really high number is due to a couple winter storms in 2021 or early 2022 that we cleaned up a lot of down branches from. Yeah, there's a question.
In your discussion, will you at some time address the issue of how we get more trees in the parking, the process?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we can talk about it right here. Here's your planting update. This spring, we planted another 178 new street trees in Sugar House. Let's just real quickly go over the process. It fits in perfectly with that question there. So if you have an empty park strip and you want a tree, call Urban Forestry. Our process is we'll send someone out and make sure there's space for a tree or trees. And then we create a big long planting list, about 1,000 trees worth. We'll send everyone a letter in the mail prior to planting with, you know, more information on how that works. So anyone that's calling now will probably have a tree planted in the fall.
Let me add one thing to you.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of people that don't know that they actually need to fill the bags on all the cool stuff you guys do.
Well, and that's why Tony's here. He's here to talk about a whole new campaign we've just launched specifically for watering trees. So, yeah.
Can I just say, this is fabulous. I've got 2 trees where one fell in the wind. It came out, the police cordoned it off because it fell diagonally into the street. It was a major mature elm alley that was planted by the previous owners. I ended up, because of where the strip, I've got 2 trees, and I do fill my water bags, I trim it, and it's fabulous. We prune the other trees. This is, and there's also something else it goes on. One of my neighbors loves trees, and you can actually pay to have trees there. He paid for 5 trees, one in my honor, thank you, in Fairmont Park. So there are ways to actually double down if you're a real tree lover. Even if you don't have space, you can actually pay to have them.
All right, let's hold all questions till the end. Let these guys get through their presentation.
Thanks, Landon. And ways to be more involved kind of dovetails off of that. Volunteer planting cleanup events every year. The Friends of Fairmont Park has a tree planting event they do. So volunteer at those events. Encourage your neighbors if they have empty park strips to request trees and help them water them if they need it. Help them be reminded if they need it. That's the next one on there. If you see dead trees in the neighborhood, there's 4 of us that respond to all 5,000 requests we get every year. So if you see it, be our eyes. And now Tony's going to talk about our new tree watering campaign called Keep Your Cool.
Thanks, Nate. My name is Tony Goliath. I'm the city forester. So nice to meet you all. I see a lot of familiar faces here, actually. But yeah, I mean, one, I love the enthusiasm of Sugar House. And part of what I'm going to talk about here is a message that probably already resonates with a large portion of this audience. But it's something that we need our audience and our advocates spreading the word on. Just really quickly here, we have a picture, kind of like the idealistic picture of pioneers coming into to this valley. And you don't see a lot of trees down there, but it sure does look nice. If we can go to the next slide here. That's pretty much how it was when they actually got down out of the valley and summer came, right? Pretty barren, pretty windy, pretty dusty, inhospitable. And if you don't know this, the legacy of our forest is that the people who settled here during the mid 1800s, they started planting trees almost immediately. And so how do you go from this to our next slide here? How do you go from that to this, where we are today? One word, it's people. It's this forest that we have here is a legacy of people, and it's trees by people for people. And this is something that has given us this amazing forest that we live in today. But nowadays, where people are on their screens, or they move from one screen to another without even realizing that they're doing it, we're noticing that our trees are getting less care than they probably have at any time in the history of our city. So what are we going to do about it? We're planting more trees than ever. We need more trees than ever. We didn't talk a lot about the benefits that trees provide, but have us back and we can spend an hour with you on that. But with this increased effort of tree planting that we're engaged in right now, and increased maintenance that we're doing, we have launched a new campaign. And if Nate could come right back up here one more time to model one of our shirts here, Keep Your Cool is the campaign. And on the back, sir, water trees. So we're really excited about this. We left some stickers and some tree watering instructions on the table out here. But if you are at some of the tabling events that the Public Lands Department is doing this summer, there's some really nice hats. There's yard signs. If you want a how to water trees, yard sign, you can reach out to us and we'll deliver it to your house. Many of you are getting new trees this year. Now, all of the trees that we plant in our park strips are coming with a tag that tells you what kind of tree it is and what its water needs are. So this is an effort that really, this comes from community. That's the only way we get this in a place where trees do not grow naturally. And you are that community. So please join us and spread the word about watering trees. If you have questions or people that do, direct them to our urban forestry division. We love to help. We love to plant trees. We love to care for trees. So that's all I really have for you. We might have time for just a question or two. Yes, sir.
Is the city looking at possibly hiring a couple of people just with water trucks to go around to people who don't, who aren't able to regularly water trees for whatever reason?
I love that question. And the answer is we have looked into it, and it's extremely cost prohibitive. So in order to run a water truck, you need a CDL driver, and then logistically, there are a lot of challenges. We're planting 2,000 trees a year. And the city has to be fair or equitable in the use of its resources. So we would be struggling to do that. It would take a fleet of water trucks. Sorry, you first.
What about if you guys gave me a bright orange volunteer shirt or whatever? I'd be happy to walk around my neighborhood, talk to my neighbors, maybe even sometimes when you're walking down the street on the park strip, tree might have a branch that kind of is low and it hits you in the head as you walk by. I feel like maybe if you had volunteers who could take care of kind of those little nitty things. I hate to call you and say, well, there's a branch that,
Well,
Only
I
5
mean,
feet from the side cover.
you're talking about citizen forestry, and that's something that we haven't really even scratched the surface of here. There are lots of people just like yourself willing to help out. And hopefully over the course of the next year or two, we're going to be able to develop some programs with resources that we now have in the Public Lands Department to coordinate volunteerism, which we haven't previously had. That is going to make opportunities like that a lot easier. And to that note, another shout out to community and volunteerism. Over the last 2 years, I would say 95% of the trees that we plant in our parks are done by volunteers. They're done with the help of Tree Utah. Some of you may have had the chance to participate on one of their plantings. They're wonderful, and it's a great collaboration that we have. So keep it up. Yes?
And I was gonna say, the 5 trees at Guinevere, I met you there at Fairmont Park on that thing, yes?
Yes, I remember you.
They do have for the city trees, not the ones that are on our personal parking strips. You do have a fleet of people who come and watch, I've watched.
In the parks, are you saying?
At Fairmont, I don't know if they were legal or not, but they came and they were watering those trees.
Fairmont has.
We thought we were gonna have to carry water down like 5 blocks for those things.
Fairmont has a lot of love, and also, speaking of, there's all sorts of great things going on in forestry. One of the other things we're doing is we're committed to retrofitting our park irrigation systems, which have historically just been to water grass, which is not an efficient way to water trees, to individualized tree watering systems that use less water per acre and provide more water to the tree at the same time. So when we go dry at the end of the year and they have to shut off the lawn irrigation, our trees will still get water and be able to provide the shade and other benefits that we need. Yes.
The same people that are so kind in my neighborhood to remove my snow without even asking, they're the same people that can help us water. We just have to let the neighbors know that we can't do that, or we don't have a hose or whatever. It's just a matter of being willing to ask your neighbor for help or for the neighbors to notice. So we can each do our part. It's not that hard. We could have a tree patrol per block.
Yeah, I love it, and I think the city can help. I mean, I was at one of these meetings maybe a month back, talking about the resources that the Urban Forestry Division has for caring for trees, and we do everything except move into your house and water your tree for you. So that's the one thing that we cannot do efficiently. So yes, it's a small price to pay. There are lots of different ways to do it. And over as the Keep Your Cool campaign really gains steam, and we look at this as a multi-year campaign, there's going to be, videos, or we'll be doing some interviews and things like that on radio programs and other outlets. And we're going to put more resources out there so people can say, hey, that way of watering doesn't work for me, but maybe this one does. And together, I think we can make a really big difference. So, and you.
Yeah, I just want to mention, anybody here love trees? Anybody loves Fairmont trees? July 15th, 8 a.m., we're going to be doing some tree care, mulching, and helping the trees stay cool, because they're cool. We're going to keep our cool. So July 15th, Friends of Fairmont volunteer event, 8 a.m. Come to the park.
And we're going to make sure you have some Keep Your Cool shirts for that event. The Friends of Fairmont are amazing. I see Samantha back there too. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about. And if we can spread that enthusiasm to other parks and other parts of the city, then we're rocking it. So, yes.
I have just one thing. I don't know if you include in your streets, but tips for citizens to water the trees in their yard. Like I found out last year about a water butler that you could get off of Amazon. You hook your hose to it. You get it to get way down in the ground. It takes a while, but it waters that tree down deep. And so, because you're right, the sprinklers aren't enough.
Right. And I'm sorry. Yeah. And I think we got to be respectful of time. But the short answer is we don't have as many resources for private property watering, but there's no reason that we can't, and that our website can't be. I mean, Nate is working on updates to our website right now that we are really going to dump and link to information, anything that you need to know about trees. And if you
even just information about what you can do in your yard.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thanks for the comment. And I mean, we will be respectful of time here, but you can get a hold of urban forestry through our website or through the city's directory. Oh, we got our last slide here. Great. Well, second to last, and there it is. Reach out to us. We love to hear from you, and we love to help. And we can have these conversations offline if you need anything else. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
These guys are great and very responsive. I forgot to thank Sally for last month for hosting our community council wherever she is. So I heard she was great. So thank you. All right, we're gonna hear from Bill Mills.
Your gain, their loss.
I was told I'm going to get the hook in 2.5 minutes, so this is going to be fast. But the good news is we do have some updates of progress being made. We have no new things coming at us for a while. So there's, see, sighs of relief. But a couple of quick items. It's already used it up?
No. In 5 minutes, we'll have something new coming at us.
Well, maybe an hour and a half. Yeah, I got work tomorrow morning. There's something breaking news, but we'll share that later. Listen, I want to just quickly say that there's like a couple of projects here that might say what's going on there. The Lowe Brothers project, the Sugar Alley infamous fire there. They are in fact working on that, although you don't see them working on it. They're working mostly off-site right now, building panels, putting a lot of stuff together, still having to wait for the insurance company to give them a green light to be back on site. And they are actually working on the project. So that's to say it is making progress, even though we can't see it. And it's still on target for being about 18 months down the road. But it is moving forward. So that's one thing that Ben Lowe wanted to make sure that we all knew. Another project that is right now, again, it's finally getting into a groove, I think, and that's the one on Ashton Avenue. We were very proud and happy to say we got that road back open. Shouldn't have been closed in the first place, maybe. Not maybe, but shouldn't. It is now open. It's very grateful that it's open because we're getting a lot of circulation through there given the Highland Drive project. So that's working good, and some of the businesses there are very grateful that that's now back in business. We got the Highland Drive project. It really is moving along quite nicely, and they will be, in fact, starting in about 2 weeks, they'll be putting pavement down on the east side, actually prepping it and putting pavement down with, I think, right after the 4th of July, Leah? Right about after the 4th of July, we'll expect to see traffic shifted over to the east side on a new roadway. We will be getting then the west side done. They'll be doing a couple of water projects at Ashton and Simpson to get that finished up, but nowhere near the utility work they've been doing on the east side. So it's moving forward. We'll have a major milestone here in about 3, maybe less than 4 weeks to say that project is seeing the daylight come to. So with that, I think the latest news, I think that's all I got right now. If you got some questions,
Just to clarify, when they open the east side of Highland, is it going to go north or?
No, it'll continue southbound. We made a decision, and we talked back and forth a million times on this, but it was decided to keep the flow going in a recognizable, you get in the habit of doing this. Let's not give people a new traffic pattern to figure out. We're sticking with that southbound. So it'll always be southbound, even as we move across the street next year and do the northern section. It'll remain southbound. So any other questions?
Just let me know that.
I'm sorry.
That, so people, if you haven't figured this out yet, not only do we have the southbound to 2700, but if you keep going south on Highland, you then get to about maybe 2 blocks away from 3300, and it's chaos there. So you've got that strip going. The other day, you couldn't turn left on 3300. Luckily, I used to live in that neighborhood. I knew that way, but for somebody else, it's like, wait, I just got through chaos. And now, there's more where I can't turn where I'm 3300, and that's not part of the updates, I don't think.
That's Mill Creek City.
And I understand, but it would be nice if we
And
had,
they should, it would have been nice.
for you
But
to coordinate and say, by the way, we have this other blockage.
Yeah, they are, it's relatively short deal. It should be over maybe by the end of this week, but they're creating median in there for the left turn lanes and all that
It's been
stuff.
going on for about 2 months.
I might argue that, but bottom line is, you're right, it would have been nice to have all of that discussion and talking amongst ourselves, but Mill Creek City had a different.
You know, it's part of the updates that we get, saying, by the way, once you get to this place, you continue, you're gonna hit this.
I'll make a note of that.
Because then you already.
Don't kill Bill Knowles. He's great. Yeah, he does a tremendous job for this community, so. Thank you. Amazing job. Okay, Mark, you ready? We're gonna talk about 10th and Elm. So they've been here before. We've seen their project. The 45-day window has started. They're not asking for maybe a minor zoning change on the Victorian house that hopefully Adrian gets to talk about at some point to us. So it's not much.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Mark Isaac. And I'm at, wrong meeting. 10th and Elm is adjacent to the Smith's Grocery. It's south of Burt Brothers Tires. And it's just a half a block off of the main drag at 2100 South. The uniqueness of that is we were trying not to do a commercial type or commercial level delivery. We were working very, very hard at trying to fit in or sequence into being a better residential setting in more of a residential neighborhood. So we've come and spent some time with LUZ in the past. We've been with the community council in the past. We walked very gingerly through all the suggestions that you made to us over those previous months, and it's been a little while since we've been to see you. We now have a formal application into the planning staff. We're working through the city entitlement process. We're just coming to share with you that we took all of your comments, considerations, from increasing our parking ratios. We are influencing our residents parking inside the parking structure by having free parking in the parking structure and not charging the residents for parking in the parking structure, which for some damn reason, it's pretty easy to actually add it to the rent rate and say, here's your rent. And then they don't feel the motivation to park on a city street. And for some damn reason, none of the other developers can figure that one out. But that's for another dialogue, another time. We were listening, we're paying attention. The big ask from the community council is the support for the rezone. We have Sugar House Central Business District zoning and can build the application as presented, but for the Victorian house and a small area of this flange that we're showing you now that actually sits on the Victorian parcel. Here's the angle for us with regards to the rezone. If I have two different zones, I have a corner lot and I have side yard setbacks. And then I can't actually tie in the landscaping and the circumstances of multiple uses. So we're literally asking for the rezone, and we're going to put the Victorian property and home in a conservation easement as part of a development agreement with the city so that nobody has the fear of being rope-a-doped and we're rezoning it and then someday we're going to build multifamily on it. It's not our intention at all. In fact, it's such a spectacular building that we're going to put all our amenities in it. On the third floor of that building, the floor to ceiling clear is 11 feet. It's unheard of in our market. So it's a really fun floor to have game, pool tables, entertainment. We're putting a library, a reading room, collab office space in there. So a lot of the uniqueness for our tenants is they get to live in a multifamily setting amongst other residential units and have this really cool historic building to entertain, to recreate, to entertain guests. And we think it's really, really important to our community that we preserve it. For those of you that don't know, it's not part of a historic preservation. The previous owners fought like cats and dogs to avoid it from being in a historic district. And if you've ever tried to redo anything on Harvard or Yale, you understand why they tried to keep it out of a historic district. All that being said, we're going to bring it back to its historic glory. The siding, the windows, the lighting, the exteriors, the landscaping. It is our owners' desire that it's their cool marketing point. You come live in our neighborhood and this is your entertainment and your recreation and your cool factor. And for all of us that love these components of Sugar House, I think it's an absolutely brilliant way that we preserve some of that character. We have, this is a wellness setting. We're doing cold plunge pool. We're doing bike racks, bike storage, because we're so associated with the S-Line and the bike lanes and all the cool stuff that so many of you have worked on with regards to the connective tissue of the bike through Sugar House Park, so on and so forth. We're trying to fit into what the Community Council and the Land Use Committee has worked so hard to achieve for so long. And so we did the 15-foot setbacks after the first floor. We didn't go to 30 feet like we can and do the required setbacks because we didn't want the neighborhood to feel like the second and third floor were looking into their yards and their home. So we did it on the first floor. So all the things that you have been so active about preserving in our community, we hope that you feel that we've done the best we can to accommodate that kind of desire, because we're super proud of what we've done. David Vaughn and Jordan Cummings with Dwell Design Studios. We're really, really creative in preserving some of that uniqueness and that character. So we're asking for a letter of support from Judy and the Land Use Committee and obviously the Community Council. But it's the rezone is the big ask, and everybody's like, why are they rezoning and what are they rezoning? We're not rezoning for additional density as much as we're rezoning so that we can develop the entirety of the block cohesively and preserve the open space that is the Victorian.
Does that come with additional density though?
A little bit, but it's like 16 units. And where it works, if you go back a slide or two, right there. There's just a small section that's on the Victorian home, and it's actually our sales and marketing center. And we picked up a few units, and we picked up a few units of density, but in the totality of it, it wasn't even a 10% pickup. It's nominal, but what we were trying to do was complete that streetscape. The good thing is we put our sales center, our visitor center and everything across the street from the Smith's loading dock. The best place we could put it on the block where it wouldn't adversely affect the residents that are in the neighborhood. And we're focusing on preserving the south wall with the Victorian. And then on the east flank, that's all your garden style walk-up units, ground floor units, and where we put the 15-foot setback off the first floor rather than 30 feet up. That was all trying to better fit into the fact that we had single family homes on the east side of the street, on the east side of our building.
Does it take up the Brook Brothers block? All that time?
No, Burt Brothers stays, and we're on the south side. We back into the 21 Urbana that you approved a few years back. And in fact, we've worked really hard with Rocky Mountain Power and with Questar Mountain Fuel. They all change their names. All our utility services are between Burt Brothers and the 21 Urbana with our RMP servicing, our meters and everything else. And that was just to tie it into the existing block, to keep those three fronts, our west, our south, and our east, as clean and as residential feeling as we possibly could. Any other questions or comments?
Tell them you want to make it.
Pardon?
Business District 2.
No, we're just carrying the zone. Yes, we're just carrying the zone into that Victorian block because that is a.
Yeah, but you haven't said what you want that zone to be.
Correct, Judy, and I think we're matching the rest of the zone, which is Sugar House Central Business District 2. Yeah, and I can't remember if it's existing CB or RB. Okay, thank you. I just couldn't remember existing.
Do you know where you're at in the easement process? Like where you're at in terms, I'm on the Historic Properties Committee for Preservation Utah, and we haven't reviewed an easement for this property yet, so I just.
Nowhere near that
Okay.
point. Nowhere near.
No, we need your blessing first to get into the queue, to get into the process, to get into, and then what we'll do that'll be tied into occupancy permits is we'll work with the city and create a conservation easement. We've already drafted it with our attorneys.
Okay.
The city needs to kind of review that and approve it.
Yeah.
It's just the cart before the horse.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Are you still putting some EV chargers in the parking lot?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it is required. 20% of your parking stalls have to be EV ready per now the new parking codes, and we will exceed that. We're starting to discover now when we deliver these buildings that we're not putting enough EV charging stations in them. A really good example for those of you that don't know, the Fourth West project down by Salt Lake Hardware downtown has 75 EV charging stations in the facility. There's a waiting list of 100 tenants that want a charging parking stall. It's moving so quickly here in the engagement and the embracement of electric charging that we're now putting additional transformers into these projects so that we have the capacity to continue to convert. We're running conduit when we pour the concrete and build these parking structures so that we can continue to add to them as demand is increased, especially in communities like Sugar House. It's becoming really, really embraced. And from that clean air prerogative that we all care so much about, it's a good part. Sooner or later, we need some, cleaner electricity, but that's another story.
And that was my question, is there gonna be any solar panels on that in any way, and to preserve the atrium? As part, it wasn't there an atrium on that?
Oh, you're thinking the carriage house,
Yes.
the atrium. The carriage house has been converted to a garage, and it's actually an old paint shop for automotive, believe it or not. And so, no, we're cleaning it up and getting rid of it. We're not preserving any of that part. That part is actually where our swimming pool and the entertainment area for the center. And if you'll click through a slide or two, I'm just looking for a bit of an aerial. One thing I'd like you to notice in here is we put our amenity center for the building facing to the southwest. There's a lot of logic in that because of how the sun flows and the light. But the truth of the matter is we've completely isolated it from all our residential neighbors. It's pointing towards our Victorian that we're preserving in our open space. And that's so we had no noise transfer to the adjacent residents in the area as well. For a change, I'm not nervous in front of you. I'm proud of what the design team did. It's a nice feeling. Listen, the solar, you and I will talk offline about solar because we have been trying so hard to bring solar into multifamily with sinks and toilets and, well, you need sewer venting. And if you don't have sewer venting, then your unit stinks. And so when you build a bunch of units, you need a bunch of vents. And we haven't figured out yet, and we collectively, the design and delivery business, the agency of building these things, how in the heck to get solar to work on the roof of a multifamily unit because we have so many damn vents. And nobody's solved it yet, and we're all scratching our heads on it. It has to happen. So far, I haven't built multifamily that has solar on it, and I've done an awful lot of units on the Wasatch Front. But every single client's talking about it. We need a Elon Musky person out of this room to come up with a new technology.
What about the windows, some of the windows?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, and we'll hold that thought for another day. That's not going to be part of this application, but the Harbor Bay folks that'll be coming back to see you sometime in the future on the Wells Fargo corner are looking at solar inlaid glass panels. And that was just dialogue that we recently had on a design call. I don't know where they're taking it, but they're at least looking at it. So just so you know, the industry it's getting better. Right now, David Vaughn's the head of Dwell Design Studios for the Utah operations. How many units do you guys have under construction right now or in design? maybe 3,000, probably closer to 4,000 or 5,000 units in Utah. And how many of them are doing solar? 0. That's the problem. I understand the logic, and every single one of us would like to see it happen. We don't have that technology there yet. Here's the problem with it. We need to store it too.
There are batteries for that. They're not very efficient. They're very expensive. Somebody needs to start that.
Correct. Get on that design idea. Any other questions? Thank you all. I love all the work that you guys do for our community.
These guys are over here drawing shots. Who's gonna go first? So we're gonna hear about Allen Park. You got it, Jared?
Amazing. Thank you all so much for having us tonight. My name is Kat Moss. I'm a planner in the Public Lands Department. I work for Salt Lake City. And I'm joined by Brian Wilkinson. He works for Wilkinson Ferrari, and they're the community engagement consultant that's helping out with Allen Park moving forward. So I'm just here to I'll keep it pretty quick in an effort to get you all to come to our event next week. But basically, we are starting kind of a year-long process to help plan for the future of Allen Park. We received funding to do a plan. We're calling it the Adaptive Reuse and Management Plan, which is basically just kind of going to define the future of Allen Park. And next slide, please. Thank you. And so this plan will be based on robust community engagement, which is basically starting this week. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then also, one more slide, thank you. This document called a Cultural Landscape Report. So over 2021, the city did a cultural landscape report, which pretty much inventories all of the historic cultural resources within the park, environmental resources, and gives recommendations about what the city needs to do to maintain the historic and cultural integrity and kind of embody the history of the park as we adapt the space into a public park. So this new Adaptive Reuse Management Plan starting this year will be based upon the Cultural Landscape Report and community engagement, which kind of brings me to, I think, our next slide. Awesome, thank you. So the city, Salt Lake City Public Lands, has engaged consultants GSBS Architects to assist us with this plan, along with Wilkinson Ferrari to do community engagement, and Bowen Collins and Associates to help with kind of the ecological, environmental side of this plan. And so that's our project team. We started in early 2023 to kind of do some groundwork, some current conditions on the site, and come up with some planning processes to engage the public. So that's the exciting stage that we're at right now. Our major goals for this plan are to save this open space from development. It is in the public lands inventory now, so it will not be developed, but we still want to turn it into a public asset that the community can celebrate and something that the community wants to see. Preserve an important cultural resource. As a lot of you probably know, there are some really unique cultural and historical elements to this place that are not unique to the city only, but the state and even the country. So preserving that as we move forward to adapt to the space. Protect and enhance Immigration Creek and its riparian corridor. There's a lot of ecological restoration that can be done to kind of celebrate those elements as well. We're very lucky to have flowing water through that public park. And so we're really excited to kind of work with our consultants and the community to determine how we want to interact with that moving forward. And then preserve the potential to connect trails through Allen Park. Currently the park kind of dead ends, but there's some opportunities for potential trail connections to kind of connect 13th East to other trails in the city. And so we're going to kind of explore that through the planning process. And then create a new park with an active community use. I think Allen Park has been kind of a mystery to a lot of us in the past. And so in 2020, when the city acquired it, there's been a lot of questions about what it's been used for, what it's going to be used for in the past. And so making sure that the future moving forward is something that this community can interact with and wants to see. And then finally, we want to consider National Historic Landmark designation. It is not currently designated as a landmark site, but there is the potential there from preliminary research. So we're kind of going to go through those first steps to work towards potentially designating this as a local and or national landmark site. Next slide, please. Thank you. So Allen Park is very unique. There are a lot of different things that we're going to have to balance, but we really want to make sure that the community uses are compatible with what the community wants to see. We need to preserve all of the habitat in the stream corridor. That's a very high priority. Achieve the city's sustainability and equity goals. That's kind of a baseline for all of our new projects moving forward. And then invest our capital, which I'll talk about in a little bit, appropriately to make sure that we're using the city's dollars and your dollars appropriately. And then provide some preservation techniques for some of the structures in Allen Park and work towards adapting those. Next slide, please. So this kind of leads me to where we're at right now. Next Tuesday on the 13th, Brian has some flyers I think that some of you saw, and there might be a few by the door. Awesome. So we are kind of launching the first public engagement opportunity to get your voices heard basically and influence this plan starting next Tuesday. We're having a community open house at the park. We're going to be sharing a ton of information, talking about some of the goals, and then kind of familiarizing you all with some opportunities to get involved. We have a survey that folks can interact with. There's a map where people can leave kind of thoughts about the park, what they want to see moving forward, and then some opportunities to have conversations with folks about memories that you've had, stories that you've heard, things that you'd like to see continue or change moving forward. So that'll be a great opportunity to engage next week. And then we'll have all of those engagement opportunities open throughout July. So there are lots of opportunities to engage online actually, I'll touch on that in just a second. But basically, we'll kind of tie up this round of community engagement. Our consultants will take everything that we've learned from the community and what's included in the cultural landscape report, and we'll come up with some potential programming and designs for the park. We'll come back out to you all and kind of feel out what elements you all want to see moving forward, and hopefully have the plan kind of tied up and published by the end of 2023. And basically this plan, as I mentioned, will dictate the future of Allen Park. Something really exciting that happened last November is the general obligations bond passed that was on the ballot, and $4.5 million of that is allocated already to Allen Park. So this plan will kind of help dictate how that $4.5 million gets used moving forward. Next slide, please. So I kind of touched on these. Apologies, I jumped ahead a little bit. I tend to get excited. But we'll be presenting a lot of community events like this. We're going to the Post Committee next week, and we're happy to come back anytime to share information. We'll update our website with all of the events. There's a QR code here. This is also a great place if you want to learn about the history of Allen Park, read the cultural landscape report, and all of our community engagement opportunities are also listed on this website. So yeah, stay tuned. This is kind of the big kickoff. I'd love to see you all there. And I am happy to take any questions that you guys might have right after Brian makes the comment.
I just want to clarify our new website with the survey, the map you can write comments on and so forth will go live next Monday. And so if you same QR code, but it'll get updated, so don't be expecting it right now when you go there. So that's all what I'm saying. Thanks.
Besides the trees that come very healthy, but yes, people love this, is that part of the problem with visiting there is the parking or the lack thereof. And so the residents you might want a little thing on the very bottom.
Yes, thank you so much. She kind of mentioned, for folks who can't hear, parking is one of the issues that we will be addressing in this plan. So if you're able, parking is very tight, very limited street parking available. If you're able to take other modes of transportation to the event, that's wonderful.
There's public parking at Westminster on the top. It's where the field is.
Great.
Oh, yeah, underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can park there.
All right. Thanks, man.
Yeah, we're done.
All right. Thanks for coming.
All right, next we're going to hear from Stan Penfold. This is the Executive Director of Green Bike, and I'll let him talk. Yeah, this is cool.
That's a great introduction. This is cool.
Now I have expectations. I'm with Green Bike, which is the bike share program that's primarily functioning downtown Salt Lake, and that's about to change this year. We're thrilled to be coming to Sugar House, so we'll be starting our first station. Applause is appropriate. We're starting our first station in Sugar House this year. It'll be at Wilmington Gardens. It'll probably open sometime in July, early August. Unfortunately, construction is going to make it a little difficult to get to, but there will be a bike share station there. And we are in conversations with Salt Lake City about some other locations along Highland Drive as they do the construction and improvement there. We're going to look at several other locations, including Sugar House Plaza. We're going to come back and talk to you probably in the fall sometime because we want to look at Sugar House as a new hub for Green Bike. If you're not familiar with Green Bike, I should tell you a little bit about it. It's the bikes you see around downtown that are docked. We're a dock-to-dock based system. It's a bike share, so it's a rental program, but it's really easy to use. And especially if you want to get around someplace like Sugar House, that's becoming more and more of a walking area. Our goal is you can just park your car or walk to the neighborhood and then ride a bike around for any of the errands or any of the activities you want to do around Sugar House Core. So we're looking at Highland Drive. We're looking at the S line. We'll be talking a little bit about 21st South with the city when transportation gets a little more detailed on that project. So our hope is to have a good core of stations located at popular spots all around the Sugar House area. So once you get into Sugar House, you can ride a bike to other places in Sugar House. Yes.
Are bikes supposedly and scooters, are they supposed to be in the street or on the sidewalk?
It depends on where you are. And most of the core downtown, you're not supposed to be on the sidewalk, although that's a bit of a conflict for us because most of our stations are actually on the sidewalk. But generally, we encourage people to ride in the street where they feel safe. I think safety is the primary issue. Generally, what we find is when people are riding on the sidewalk, it's probably because they're not feeling safe in the road. But with the new infrastructure that's going in around town, with the new bike lanes, we're seeing more and more people getting comfortable riding because of the increased safety in the bike lanes. And so that's what we encourage. There are a couple of systems in town. We are the docking system. So we're not the scooters and we're not the bikes that you see kind of lying around. Our system is you check a bike out of a station, then you check it back into a station. So that's great for the concept of sort of keeping bikes where they belong and not in your front yard. It's challenging because it requires us to be really conscious of where our locations are so they're convenient for people. Yes.
Do you have any locations right next to track stops or anything?
I'm sorry. Did you?
Next to track? Next to track.
Oh, yeah. So we are primarily focused around Front Runner downtown. So we're at Central Station. We're at North Temple. We're looking at tracks locations because it's really great for us to be near UTA. UTA is a supporting sponsor of ours, and we're working with them to hopefully down the road have a single pass that's good for UTA and Green Bike. If you have a Hive Pass with Salt Lake City, you actually have a Green Bike Pass as well. So if you're using a Hive Pass that you purchased as a resident for Salt Lake City, you already have access to all of our Green Bike system. We have stations in Ogden now. We opened this in Ogden last year. So we're trying to make connections particularly along the Front Runner line to make sure that people can use transit and then use our bikes.
Are you considering a terminus at the end of the S line?
Yes, we are. S-Line actually is one of our primary locations. So we're looking at sort of logical 5th, 7th, 9th sort of locations along the S-Line. A couple on Highland. So right at Sugar Mountain Highland is probably a likely location. And so we'll be trying to be strategically located along with that bike path that's going along Highland 11th East. Any other questions? So I'm thrilled that we're coming to Sugar House. We will probably get on the agenda for this fall sometime to come back and talk to you a little more specific about some possible locations as construction kind of moves forward and as our funding moves forward for adding new stations.
Just keep in mind the Wilmington Guard Station will be online this summer. You can go to greenbikeutah.org for all the information. And then we'll be looking at a possible late fall or more probably early spring expansion for a few more locations. Thanks.
Andrew, you want to come up? Laura, you want to talk real quick as Andrew comes up? So we're going to hear about Parley's Mine. Sorry. Hey, Nate Bluen, do you want to come up too?
Well, this is less controversial than Parley's Mine. So we've come before you before. We've talked about the glass recycling bin at Fairmont Park, and the mural is done, and it is fabulous. And I really want to shout out to Sarah, because without her, it wouldn't have gotten done. She's such an organized person. And thanks to Sally and Milo and Tina, who all helped with it. So we're having a reveal party on June 28th in Fairmont Park. We're going to have live music, a band some of you may have heard, that's Beacon Street Jazz. And the artist was Kendra Fair and her daughter Aria. And they really did a tremendous job. I have to say, I'm biased. I've known Kendra for probably 15 years. This is the most detailed mural I've seen like anywhere. So you need to come and see it. And then during the party, we want you to bring your glass. We haven't figured out all that we're doing with that, but we want to christen it in the proper way, which is, throw glass in. And Momentum's been great to work with. And Sarah, am I leaving anything out? Okay, so we have flyers here, and Tina's passing them out. And June 28th, between 6:30 and 8. And it's the 9th East entrance at Fairmont Park, where the old glass recycling bin is that is really ugly. And now we'll have something beautiful. And it's super cool because there's a skateboarder on one side of the mural. And so we think the kids there at the park will like this. So thank you.
So we have Andrew Smith with SaveParleys.org. And then this is Senator Nate Bluen. I'm just here to look good.
I'm Andrew Smith with Save Parleys. Been here a few times in the past. By the raise of hand, who has not heard about the proposed gravel pit in Parleys? That's fantastic.
I wrote my letter today.
Okay, I saw maybe one. So that means you've all heard of it. I was impressed at how many tree lovers there are in this room. And I would assume that there's more lovers in this room that want to breathe than there are that love trees. Is that right? Who wants to breathe? Well, I'm here to tell you about a threat. I'm not going to read this whole thing. This is a handout. You can read it. But there is still a threat for this mine going through. And that first paragraph highlights the reasons why. The owner of the land and Granite Construction, the operator of the proposed mine, are moving forward like they've already got the full green light to do this, and they do not. UDOT has given them a permission to start building a road that they don't even need yet, but they did get that permission. Air Quality, Division of Air Quality, has just put out about 2 weeks ago, a notice that they intend to approve Granite's air quality emissions control plan, which is basically check off a bunch of boxes on 16 pages of the application, and then we'll rubber stamp it. I'm not very impressed with that. I'm upset about that. And I'm asking for your help now, because there's a call to action. First off, we need letter writers. Not everybody can stand up here. Not everybody wants to stand up here. Not everybody wants to be vocal. But I would imagine that everybody in this room could write a letter And here's some outlines and some help and some hints and some pointers on how to write that letter. First, who do you send it to? That's right there, 3 email addresses. Second, we want you to copy to the governor's office. The governor has been very silent on this. I don't know why, but we need to poke the bear, if you will. We need to have your letters and all my letters and all of the letters that we can generate also copied to him. Talking points, you can read through those. They're disturbing. It's like, kind of like the DMV. If you pass this test, we'll give you a driver's license. But you have to pass the test, and now you have to prove to me that you have the coordination and the knowledge and the skills to drive a car. So you coordinate that. And I say that because as you read through this, you'll remember my DMV analogy, and that it applies in a lot of things in life. Management and good leadership means you have to look at a lot of different things before you make a decision that affects the air quality of Salt Lake City and Salt Lake Valley and 1.4 million people that breathe it. And that's what's not happening. And so I'm here to say that letter writing and getting a community effort and getting community voices in letters is very powerful. We have slowed this process down for 18 and a half months, but it's only slowed down, it's not stopped. Public hearing. There on June 22nd, Thursday, 15 days from today, we would like to have hundreds of people show up to a boardroom that's on, the address is on there. It's the multi-agent state office building, 195 North, 1950 West. It's a boardroom that can handle about 300, 250, maybe 300 people. The Department of Air Quality is going to be there all day long from 9 a.m. to 6:30. We're trying to get a concentrated, large effort of people to show up between 5 and 5:30. I don't know what their strategy is of having that long of a period of somebody in a room waiting for people to show up, but our strategy is going to be, let's try to coordinate the largest, biggest group that we can to show up. And if you don't want to voice your opinion, you don't have to, but just to be there. It'll be newsworthy. We're looking at the news channels. We're looking at newspapers. We're looking at reporters. We're looking at a lot of media to try to coordinate and be there at the same time. So please, as you read through this, remember June 22nd at that building. A lot of people work. I don't, so I could go at 9 a.m., but I'll be one person. So I'm going to wait until all of you that do work, that want to show up between 5 and 5:30, I'll be there shaking your hand and supporting you. And I'm going to be commenting along with, I'm hoping, dozens and dozens of others with the cameras rolling, and it'll be on the news. We need a lot of grassroots work and effort on this to make sure the public is aware of what is going on and what could happen to cause more fugitive dust, more air pollution, and all the other bad and things that you could think about of an open pit mine in Parley's Canyon. But right now, this is the time, air quality. One thing about your letters, we got a 30-day extension. So they do a public comment period for 30 days. We got it extended for 30 more days. So it's July 27th. So if you want to write more than one letter to different people, that's fine. If your children want to write a letter, if your neighbors want to write a letter, go for it. The last little bit there's a few little links. If you did not get a handout, I think I might have got enough, I don't know. Our website, saveparleys.org, has all this exact same information, links to how to get the letter. comment on the letter to Governor Cox. You have to use their form, and the link is on here. It's the governor's office open comment thing, and it's a easy form. All you do is fill out a few little things. You can cut and paste your own letter and put it right in there. So, Nate, what do you think?
I don't know if I forgot to add to that. That was a fantastic presentation, and we're behind you. I appreciate all the work you've done this. We did get some good news last week. We initially confirmed Mayor Silvestrini of Mill Creek to the State Air Quality Board. There was some controversy a couple of months ago where Suzanne Harrison, her nomination was not approved by the committee. So we should have Mayor Silvestrini in that post after interim next Wednesday. So he's been a good ally on this project as well. And so we're looking forward to having his voice. But I would just echo those sentiments. Please reach out to the folks that are noted here. Send your letters. Show up on what was the date? The
June 22nd. Thursday, June 22nd.
Yep. Please show up then. I think that's the best thing we can do is just share this everywhere. It's not stamped for approval yet, so there's plenty that can still be done to slow it down. So thank you, Andrew.
Okay. Any questions? Yes.
Are you coordinating with like Field Utah with their
body? Yes.
And also on Save Our Canyons, I don't know where the conflict issue is that we've all shown up at that they ignore, but they Patagonia, Black Diamond for the Save Our Canyons, a lot of other what I call businesses would post, come and write letters. They got kids to write letters. There's a lot, I think, the Olympics, I would think Park City itself would be ticked off, Deer Valley would be ticked off, the other ski resorts there, and get them as allies, saying, we do not need this, we do not want this.
You're correct. And we are coordinating with Heal Utah, Save Our Canyons, the Utah Physicians for Healthy Environment, Patagonia, Black, what is it? Yeah, Black Diamonds. I went blank for a second. And community councils like this. I'm going to be going to other community councils, and we're going to be trying to get information on as many websites as we can where you can see this kind of information. It would be great to, have thousands and thousands of letters flow into all of these offices, and especially with the governor's office, where maybe he'll come and actually say something. He's the leader of all of these agencies that this mine has to get permits for before they can operate, and he needs to be involved. Pardon me?
His environmental liaison and get the media there at every one of the
Yes,
meetings.
that's what we're planning. That's why we want the large turnout between 5 and 6:30. We'll be getting a good media-worthy opportunity. So.
I'm sure they'll be covering that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Dan. Then Judy will do a land use and then call it a night.
Hi, really quickly. About 2 months ago, the fire department was here and was talking about how citizens who can be first responders for them as they're en route to help out with chest compressions, CPR, and doing some of that triage that can really save lives. I thought a lot about it and realized that my CPR card has been expired for quite a bit. And so I organized with the fire department with Chief Kyle Lavender for next Wednesday at 6 o'clock at Fire Station 3 on 900 East from 6 to 7. They're going to be giving an instruction on how to do compressions, how to use a defibrillator, things to do to stop the bleed, choking, and the administration of, I believe it's pronounced Narcan. Narcan. Pardon me, sloppy tongue here. But anyway, it'll be an opportunity for all of us to get some of that first responding training that can maybe help one of our citizens and neighbors out with this time. And in addition, it's an opportunity to take a tour of the firehouse. And so it'll be 6 to 7 next Wednesday. I know we're really, really busy week coming up with all the other activities, but 6 to 7, Fire Station 3, 900 East on June 14th.
Please put that information on your website, the community council website.
It actually it is.
Okay.
It's already it's in the current June newsletter. So if it's on the June newsletter, there is a sign-up sheet for there. Chief Lavender is going to be there. He is the chief medical officer for the fire department. He'll be doing the actual instruction himself, and there'll be lots of opportunities to sort of like learn about first aid and other life-saving measures. So anyway, thank you.
Oh. Awesome, Dan.
In case you haven't noticed, the city council and the planning commission are going full tilt this month and last month. And it's really hard to keep up with everything. The planning commission approved the landscape ordinance that we reviewed last month, the prohibition of drive-throughs in Sugar House Business District 1 and 2. We were trying to get them to allow banks and pharmacies to have drive-throughs, and the planning commission said, nah, nobody gets a drive-through. Anyway, affordable housing incentives and the Housing Salt Lake Plan. They turned down 1782 South, 1600 East. There was a zoning map amendment there next to Becky's house, so she was pleased. The Historic Preservation Overlay Text Amendment will go to the City Council. And we felt that was way too narrow because it was only protecting people who had a house in the local historic district. And we know that there are tons and tons of beautiful homes and buildings in the city that should be protected. You know, the incentive, the affordable housing overlay zone makes those targets. And I don't quite understand whether the whole thing is crazy. Anyway, on the land use meeting, we're going to have this be June 12th. We're a week early this month because Juneteenth is a new holiday. Mm-hmm. And we don't have our committee meetings on the holidays because the planners aren't available to come. So we're going to be doing adaptive reuse. So you might take that old grocery store with an apartment on the top and turn it into 2 units, top and bottom. Ways to keep the fabric of this community in place. The Thriving in Place plan, which is humongous, and 10th and Elm, those 3 will be on the land use committee. And I'm hoping we'll have planners for all of them. That one is going to be by Zoom because the library was already booked. Thank you. Yes.
I'm just curious what the council's position is, the Sugar House council position is on any more of these multi-family dwellings that feel like cities being built within a city in the space of 3 blocks.
So here's the problem. It starts with an L. The laws in this state say that if you own a parcel, you are allowed to develop that to its highest and best use. And if it's zoned Sugar House Business District 1 or 2, they can go 75 or 105 feet. I mean, we can't prohibit that. Just like we can't tell you, no, you can't add a garage to your property. The property owner reigns in those issues. So it's coming. And the city is 50,000 housing units short. So it's really hard to say no.
Also not just 3 blocks long.
Well, yeah, but there's no space that's zoned for high rises, except for here in downtown. I mean, find another property and try to rezone it higher. But those neighbors will yell at you. You know, it's a continual process. I'm sorry. Doesn't mean I like it. I just, we can't buck the laws. Yeah.
So all the new developments in Salt Lake City are by and far apartments, apartment complexes. And I was curious why people don't show condos. Because I think if you have a condo, it creates more of a, this is a community.
Right. I think a lot of it is financing. The banks are They don't like to loan to condos.
Is Mark here because there is a discussion.
Is Mark still here?
About a year ago, and there
Yeah.
are lots of disincentive, there's not as much money in it. They end up, the condo people don't like to see
Right.
it building up, it's not as profitable, there's ownership involved, God forbid we should give people ownership in their property, there's a whole thing about that.
Yeah. We're working on
There's
that.
disincentive things, with the zoning includes.
Sally, do you have anything?
Real quick, you all know what's happening on Saturday. Come to Music School. I want to tell you that we now have some raffle prizes that are pretty awesome. Wasatch Touring has donated a new specialized bike, and Acoustic Music has donated a Martin guitar. So, a Martin guitar, and we have tickets to.
What about lessons?
I'll see if we can get them to throw those in. And we have tickets to the amphitheater. There's all kinds of nice raffles. And of course, the event is free. So Saturday, 3 o'clock.
All right, thanks guys for coming tonight. Meeting adjourned. Tim, you want to stay a few minutes? You good? Okay. And thanks to the Neighborhood Hive for always hosting us.
Excellent. Low income, there's going to be food trucks.
Excellent. We'll be there.
35 vans.